What's up, guys? Episode 11 here. I'm excited about this one. Today, the guest is Biggie Rhodes, UFC veteran, Bellator MMA veteran, former RFA welterweight champion. Just a guy with a lot of MMA experience and a lot of good stories to tell. You know, I've known him for a few years now, and I knew him when he first started MMA, and he was kind enough to come on the podcast and share some more stories, and it was nice to catch up with him. I haven't talked to him in a while, so I hope you guys enjoy it. As always, click subscribe on iTunes, on YouTube. Give our page a like on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, and just help spread the word as best you can, guys. So, Biggie Rhodes, everyone. What's up?
What's up?
Biggie Rhodes is here, hanging out. How you
Nice.
been?
It's nice to be home, man. I'm good. It's been a long time, but I'm happy.
Yeah, so you're home for the long weekend.
Had the fight. Got a couple extra days. Memorial Day. It was kind of a perfect kind of little scenario because I don't get to come home, so not having to go back and work Monday made it worth it to come home. It's expensive.
Right. And I'll be honest, I didn't watch your fight last weekend. I was at a wedding. I was following it on Twitter, but I know it didn't go the way you wanted it to. But how was the trip? How was everything, the experience?
Honestly, I didn't know what to expect. ACB is pretty new, and it's a Russian-based promotion, but it was in the UK. So they had a lot of people, a lot of moving parts, and then obviously I got the fight short notice. Probably like 3 weeks or something, a little over 3 weeks. So, getting everything together, like the flights and stuff like that was like kind of spontaneous. Like it wasn't like I would have liked it, but once I got there, it was awesome. They really know how to run a show. I would say my experience with them fight week was better than Bellator's when I was with them guys. Made sure to put us in a really nice hotel that had everything we needed, sauna, gym, everything like that. Took care of all of our meals. We were in a pretty central location in Nottingham. So it was like anything we needed, like it was a grocery store, dollar store, all that, within a block's walk. So it was awesome. I mean, place is cool,
Yeah.
They drive on the wrong side of the street, though. Like, it messed me up, man. I was, like, getting nauseous, like, watching cars coming. And then, like, I almost got hit a couple of times because you, like, walk out and you're, like, expecting traffic to come from one way. Yeah. And I look and I'm like, oh, we good. And then I start walking. And
someone else.
Yeah, it's like, I thought they were going to hit me. But overall experience, I lost the fight, They said 30-27. I think that's kind of a joke. If you go back and watch it, I clearly won the second round, and then the third round was close, kind of a toss-up. Like, he got the takedown, but he didn't do anything with it. Like, I landed all the strikes off my back, threatened with submissions, but...
Was he European?
Yeah, he was Russian.
Okay.
He was a fighter from the gym that the show is based off of, pretty much. Because the last, the B in ACB is, I don't even know how to pronounce it right, but it's like Berkarat. But that's the name of their Russian-based gym. Okay. So I fought one of their guys. He was supposed to fight Scott Askham, former UFC guy, but he's from the UK. Okay. So I filled in for him. So right on. Tough matchup. He's like one of the top, middleweights in Europe and, kind of over there in that area. So overall, I thought it went pretty well. I think I got some things, obviously, I still need to work on, but,
So... Some people might not know who you are and know how we know each other. And my earliest memory of you is actually in junior high, even though you went to East and I was at Pete and we were playing basketball. And this big kid was running up and down, draining threes and, showing out. And like, I was just like, what the hell?
Man, I'll tell you, I was definitely like, I think I surprised a lot of people with like, how athletic I was, but as big as I was, I think it was just a weird combination, man. Right. I think I just took everybody by surprise kind of thing. Like, what was that dude's name? Played in the NBA for a while, like Big Baby Davis.
Yep.
Kind of like him, you know, like
shooting guard.
Yeah, you know, like he's big as hell, but like you can move a little bit. But
Right.
man, that's crazy. Like,
Yeah, I vaguely remember you when I was in junior high and I was sitting on the bench watching the games and I was just like,
you went to Pete,
Pete,
right?
and it was your boss.
Man, who else? I'm just trying to think of, because I remember like all the kids that we used to play growing up through AAU for like basketball. They all either went to Schindel.
Yeah.
Yep. Me and him used to battle it out.
Yeah.
Like we became friends, but like early on, like from like second grade all the way to high school, we were just like rivals, just trying to murder each other every game we played, man.
Yeah, he went hard, you know.
You know what he's doing these days?
I don't know.
Is he
I
still
think he's
around?
around here, I think. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
I haven't ran into him though.
Man,
I've seen his
been about
brothers.
8 years since I've seen him last, probably.
Yeah, so for people that don't know, Biggie is from Waterloo, grew up and raised here, and he is a professional fighter. That is his profession. When I say he's fought the best of the best, he really has. He's fought and stood toe-to-toe with Robert Whittaker, the middleweight champion in the UFC, on his home soil. So he's fought people anywhere, everywhere. You know, you fought in how many continents, how many different...
Man, like you said, I fought Robert Whittaker in New Zealand. I fought Eric Silva in Brazil. I fought in Canada. Most recently, like we were talking about, I just fought in Nottingham, England. Man.
You fought for UFC, Bellator... what's the one?
I was the RFA champion before they merged. The Victory Fighting champion, middleweight champion. I don't know how they do that because technically, like, I still have it, you know. So I don't know what they're gonna do with it. But when I went to Bellator, they never made me vacate it or anything. Yeah. So I don't know, that the belt's in the trunk of my car. So if anybody wants to fight for it, I got it. But yeah, and I won a couple fights up in Canada and stuff like that, and then locally in Milwaukee and stuff like that. So I got to fight some pretty cool places.
Well, the amazing thing to me about your story is you went to Ellsworth for basketball, and we were hanging out there for 2 years, did your thing, and then you can tell the story better than me, but you were back during the summer.
Yeah, I was. So pretty much what happened was after. So the first year I went to Ellsworth to play basketball, I had like a partial scholarship. And then, so right before that, like, your senior year, before that summer, I was out here in Cedar Falls hanging out, and I can't remember the name of the place, but it was right here on University, and they used to have fights in the bar.
Dude, it was right over there.
Yeah. So it was
it
right over the road.
Yeah.
Well, I went there one night and I was with some people, and it was a guy by the name of Blaine something. He was like a big, like
Farm
heavyweight, like 300 pounds, bunch of tattoos, like crazy. And he didn't have an opponent, and I was there, and they're like, "Hey, you want to fight?" And I was like, "Sure." I didn't have shorts, I didn't have mouth guard, gloves, nothing. They like gave me a boil and bite mouth guard that like I didn't even have molded. Wore some dude's basketball shorts, like just I just went out there and I fought, and obviously I lost because the dude had like some kind of training, and I was big, but I wasn't that big,
Right.
And I ended up losing. I think I lost a decision or something like that, but I ended up like breaking my foot. Like a week before my visit to go play basketball at Ellsworth. So when I got there, I was like running up and down the court with a broken foot, and then that was like the start of kind of like more weight gain, because I was probably about 205, 210 at that point. And then when I broke my foot, I gained like 20 pounds. And then after I broke my foot, I tore my meniscus, and I gained like another 20 pounds.
On that same leg?
On the same leg.
Oh, damn.
So I went like boom, boom, boom. Next thing you know, I'm 270 pounds. Trying to earn my scholarship, because like Ellsworth, they do these things called 33s. It's like it's pretty much like a suicide, but you got 33 seconds to do it.
Okay.
And you have to do 11 of those in a row just to get your jersey.
Seconds.
At 33 seconds. If you go above, you have to start over, and you have to do it on another day, because you have to do 11 consecutive 33s in order to get your jersey. So my freshman year, I didn't make it. I didn't make it for 2 weeks, so I couldn't practice. Didn't even get all of my scholarship stuff. So it was crazy. But once I got it, I played that year. And basketball kind of brought out the worst in me. Like the best, but the worst. I loved it, but like my attitude when I was playing was terrible. And so
How do you mean?
Like I was angry, like when I played, I was so physically aggressive that like, referees, if I felt like they were, tic tac fouling,
Right.
whatever, or in practice, if I feel like I'm better than someone or I'm doing better than someone, and then like in the game, your minutes don't line up with
Right.
like how well you're doing. And I kind of figured out after my freshman year, I mean, we were good. We were number one in the nation for junior college. So there's some really good players, but I felt like I could have did something. Like I felt like I could shoot the ball really well, but being on a partial scholarship and then other people being on a full ride, the full ride people get, they get president over you always. Right. And so after my freshman year, I kind of knew that. And my sophomore year, I kind of blew up, and so I ended up quitting the team halfway through the season, pretty much. And then
Did you move back then?
No, I stayed. I went to finish school, and then I was talking to other colleges about playing. So that's the reason why I ended up coming back home for that summer. Was I talked to the coach at UMary in North Dakota, where one of my other teammates went, one of my best friends, Damon Smith, and he's like, you got to get in shape, because I was like 270 pounds, Yeah. So he's like, no, you can't come here like that. Like, you got to get in shape. You can walk on. I'm like, okay, cool. So I came back home. Tyson's does a like a college kid kind of program where they hire you for the summer.
Okay.
It's like $18 an hour to do like maintenance work. So it was really nice money. So I was doing that. And then obviously I needed to get in shape, and that's when I ended up going to the Rock, and I didn't even plan on taking martial arts classes there. I just wanted to gym to work out at. And then
how'd you hear about the Rock?
Man, honestly, I just thought it was Gold's Gym. I didn't even know that the Rock was inside, and had the rooms and the programs and stuff. So I literally had just signed up for a regular Gold's Gym membership, and I was running and working out and whatnot. And then like towards the end of the summer, I decided that I didn't want to play basketball anymore. So I was like, I really don't care to go to UMary. I'm going to go to UNI. And I was looking for roommates, and then two guys at Gold's Gym who happened to train, at the Rock with Team Rock, said they had the room open. So that was Kason and Dane Nolte. Okay. So I ended up moving in with them. Like right as I started moving in with them, that's when they had been training. So I started training. So I did jiu-jitsu, and then I think it was like my first or second day in kickboxing class. Roy Jones.
Yeah, I remember you.
Yeah, he kicked me in the head and like knocked my headgear. Like I was sparring, I didn't know what the hell I was doing, but it was like I was just fighting, and he knocked the little Everlast red strap-on headgear off my head, and I was like, what the, but I something about that just kind of like, it just resonated with me, like, oh, this could be fun if I knew what I was doing. So,
dude, I remember, because back then there was like a beginner's kickboxing class and then the advanced class, and like I had been in the beginner's class for like 6 or 8 months, and I was like, I'm gonna finally go up to the advanced class. And then like you went to like one beginner's class, and then the next day I was like walking in and you were sparring with Roy Jones, and I was like, what the hell, man? You just got here.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I had a little bit of taekwondo, like a little bit of background in that, but like, I wrestled till 8th grade, but there was no reason I should have been sparring Roy Jones, funny. Especially like that quick. Right. And I mean, the process went so fast, I think just because, once again, I think it was just like athleticism where like I could get away with certain things, like made me able to do that. But then when he kicked me in the head, I was like, yo, what am I into? Because I had never really watched any kind of martial art. Right. I mean, no kind of MMA or anything like that. I didn't really know what it was, And then all of a sudden, bam! I just get kicked in the head. I'm like, wow, what is this? And then like I think it was like the same week I sparred Josh Bumgarner, and bam, freaking blacked my eye up. And, like it was bad, And I think it was like maybe 2 weeks after that I fought. I fought quick.
It was like in October. I feel like.
So it was like within a month of training that I took that first fight. And I'm on the poster. I still look at the poster now. I got the black eye from Bumgarner, black in my eye, and I'm freaking huge on that thing. I think I weighed like 250 something pounds for that still. So that I had lost 20 something pounds, but
I remember that fight.
Was quick
because that dude's hair was like pink or something.
Yeah, and then it was all over the place. Like I had those. I was really into it, so I went and bought those little anklets. Like I bought anklets. I went and ordered these Muay Thai shorts like off the internet, and I got Fairtex like MMA gloves, and they were brand new, all white. And I freaking fought in them,
And they were pink.
And they were pink. Wait, no, that first fight I fought in Cali, Kruger's Hayabusa gloves, and they were white. And he was like, you can just have them, because after the fight, there was just like pink dye everywhere. And like, I remember like Superman punching him, and it was just like poof. And it just looked like, you know what I mean, those little bath bombs that people have now. It's just like going all over the place. But that dude was tough, man. He was big too. I remember the next day, both my eyes were swollen shut.
Really?
Like I couldn't even open my eyes. I had stayed with we obviously after the fight we went and partied, and we were out. I think it was that Ice that was on the hill? I think it was Ice. Yeah. I think we went to Ice, and that place. And I think, like, I don't know what I just got wasted, you know. And then I like we went to sleep, and literally the next morning, like I woke up and I was like panicking, like I was like crying because my eyes were swollen shut and they were like crusted. So I'm like trying to open my eyes and I couldn't, and so they had to bring me like a hot rag, and I was just like wiping the crust off my eyes, and like I could barely see, but I got hooked, and that's when I was like, all right, I want to do this, you know, I want to fight.
You got bit by the bug.
Yep. And 7 years later, and I'm almost 8 years later, and I'm still doing that. So
I was thinking, because I was thinking when I saw you were coming back to town, I was just thinking about you, and I was like, damn, dude, like from where you were that day, and I don't know how many years it was, maybe 4 or 5 years, you went from just not a nobody, but a nobody to fighting literally world champions in the highest organization in the world on, you know, national TV. Do you ever like think about that and just say like, dude, how the hell? Like, that's like for me going from right now to being next year's NBA finals, like starting rotation. Like it's not that big, but it's
weird, man, because like I have to try and not think of it that way. You know, like it's like it's a surreal thing. And, you know, like honestly, I'll just sit on the couch with my mom at home, and you know, she doesn't really watch my fights. She doesn't like to watch it. She doesn't even really want me to fight still to this day. She doesn't really care for it, you know, but she supports me because I'm so passionate about it. But like they just showed the commercial for UFC 225 in Chicago with Robert Whittaker, and she goes, literally today, she goes, "Hey, I know that name. You fought him, didn't you?" And I was like, I did.
That world champion.
You know, and I was like, yeah, he's the world champion right now. She's like, really? And I'm like, yeah, you know, so it's like when more people bring it up to me than I really want to talk about it, just because I didn't win, you know, that kind of thing. But it was surreal, man. Like you said, I think it was like 3 years, and I was in the UFC. You know, it's one of those things where it's like maybe it was too soon, but it's one of those things that also at the end of this journey, I'll look back and be like, you know, that prepared me for everything else. Like no other fight now can be, you know, like obviously you get pre-fight nerves and stuff like that every time you fight. I don't get so much nervous, more so excitement, but I think that's just kind of my demeanor. But, you know, there's no fight now that's going to be
over your head.
Yeah, so I think I would have to, you know, be fighting for a championship for, you know, like that kind of thing for me to get those kind of butterflies.
When you were fighting him, I remember we went to the half pint, and it was like 3:00 in the morning just to watch you fight.
Man, it's nuts. And it's like their time, you know, trying to get on their time. That was the same thing with this last fight in Nottingham. It was like 6 hours ahead. So it was like on the way there, it took us 24 hours of travel time to get there, you know? So it was like, you know,
and you're cutting weight.
Yeah, and that's what people don't understand. It's like, and I couldn't eat a lot of the food that was in England because it's like, you know, I don't know what's in it. Even their water was like natural mineral water, so has sodium in it, has you know, salt, all these natural things in there, which isn't bad, but for someone cutting weight, I'm not supposed to have that, you know. So it was hard. And luckily I had that experience of fighting in the UFC, you know, going to Brazil and going to New Zealand, having to figure out what I can and cannot eat, you know, things to drink, things to stay away from. It was hard though, because I think I left like 193. By the time I got there, I was like 199, you know, for a 185 fight. And then I did one workout and I was back down to like 193 again. But there was no food really to eat. Like we were looking around, I'm like, I can't eat here. And we couldn't find like a brunch spot to just get some eggs or anything. So I ended up having to settle for, like a Subway salad and not get anything on it, just kind of eating the spinach and the vegetables. But,
it's just more stress.
Yeah, and that stuff isn't even, like it's clean, but it ain't clean because they have to be able to store it in bulk. So it's got some preservatives and stuff. So I end up holding water. I woke up the next day thinking I'd be like 195. I was 198 again. So it was like, now I got to, kill a workout. And luckily, my body, and like you said, I don't stress about stuff just because of the experiences that I've had in the past. And so I was like, I'm not going to stress about it. Let's go do a workout. I threw the plastics on, jogged on the treadmill for about 40 minutes, 8 pounds. I was 190.
Nice.
Went to sleep, woke up 2 pounds over. I floated 2 in my sleep, got in the hot bathtub. Next, 20 minutes and I was underweight, so it's just a process. But yeah, I mean, overall, just looking back, because obviously I'm not done fighting. I feel like I'm far from it. But I can look back and be like, I accomplished some goals as far as like where I made it to, but that's just like motivation now to get back, and just get better.
Right. And I wasn't at all with you during that time, because for you to get to that point, you had to make big changes and move. You had to move to Milwaukee, which was really smart. And, training with world champions at the time, multiple world champions in your gym and everything and like that. And it still wasn't easy. And can you just talk about maybe that 3 or 4 years where you get up there and you're alone and you're getting beat up by world champions? And, there was probably lots of points where you wanted to quit, and you saw it through, and then, you finally got that call, and, things started clicking. And
yeah, it was actually really crazy,
because everyone wants to be a fighter.
Yeah.
Myself included.
Yeah,
at one point.
I think a lot of people, and that's the thing, and I think that's what makes me so angry when I see people say stuff on social media, like people who are supposed to be fans, and and I understand you dislike certain fighters and you feel a certain way about certain fighters, but even me, even my worst enemy in fighting, which I don't really have any, no kind of rival kind of thing.
Right.
Obviously, everyone who beats me, I want to fight them again and beat them. But even if I had a rival, I would still want my fans and people to respect that person, because it's a lot that goes into it. I was in college. I was at UNI trying to finish my bachelor's degree. And I left 17 credits early. Short. Yeah. So I left. I was over school, and I'm like, I want to fight. So, Joe Cason and Roy Jones, they were the big fighters out of our gym, out of our area. So they wanted to move on to a bigger gym. So they wanted to go to Rufus Sport. I was like, sure, I'll tag along. I want to go. So I went up there in my first sparring session. I sparred with Pat Barry, Ben Askren, and Joao Zeffirino, who fought in the UFC as well. He's with Pro Fighter League now. Obviously, most people know who Ben Askren is, but those were my first 3 sparring sessions when I got there, So, and I was an amateur. I think I had only had 3 fights at that time, So that kind of opened my eyes to what I was getting myself into. And then Duke invited me back for the summer, said, he's got a fighter house. You can come stay here. And I lived in the house. It was me, Joe Cason, Zach Underwood, who fought for Bellator and stuff like that. He's from Tennessee. Rick Glenn, who's now in the UFC. Dustin Ortiz, who's now in the UFC. And this guy named Ron, he fought for a while, but he used to wrestle back in the day. But we all lived in a fighter house together. I mean, like in an open room, air mattresses on the ground. But we were all, chasing something, and they were all pros already, higher level pros, had already pretty much made their mark, all those guys. And I was still the amateur, but I think that just helped me with like work ethic and seeing like, if they're sacrificing all of this stuff, then I can do it too,
Right.
So after that summer, that's when I came back to UNI, and I did, half that semester, and I was like, man, I gotta go. I'm literally dying here, So I was like, I gotta leave. I had a motorcycle at the time that I never really rode. I was never big into riding it. I rode it once. I went too fast, got scared, and I was like, I need to get rid of this thing. So I sold it. But that is the money that allowed me to move to Milwaukee, or else I wouldn't have been able to afford it. So I took like the last like $400 or $500 I had from like my student loans, put that together with the motorcycle money. Mike Maker,
Yeah.
Freaking him and Brandon Roby, you know, guys that were at Team Rock as well,
Right.
like packed my stuff up in the trailer, drove me all the way up to Milwaukee. And at that time, Zach Underwood was leaving, and Eric Koch from Cedar Rapids, who was in the UFC at that time, needed a roommate. So I moved in with him, and you know, I started bouncing at the bars, training, you know, just training with all those guys. And you know, we used to train twice a day then. We used to do a 8 to 10 training, and then we'd do like a 4 to 6 training. So I would bounce at the bar until, you know, 3, 4 in the morning, drive back, take a nap for like 2 hours, get up, go train, take a nap, train, and then right from that training session, drive back to the bar.
Right.
You know, and then like at that time, Eric had a couple injuries. So like I just told my mom this, like a lot of people don't know, like me and Eric were pretty much like squatting in this apartment. You know, like the lights were off. We couldn't pay the electric bill. We were barely making enough money to pay the rent, you know, but it was like getting to be the winter months almost. Like this was at the tail end of the summer, so like no air conditioning, nothing. We would go and sleep in Rufus Sport and like lay behind the counter just to watch TV there. We would take like the Xbox there to play the game, and it was like, you know, by the wintertime we're like, oh, when it's the wintertime, you know, they can't kick us out. Milwaukee has a law where they can't kick you out of a place in winter months. So over that winter we were like behind on rent still. You know, we had just got the electricity back on. So that was crazy, you know, and I still was an amateur, so I wasn't even getting paid to fight. He was having, you know, he was down on his luck with injuries.
Right.
And then I ended up, you know, finishing my amateur career. I think I was like 6-1 or something like that. And then Duke was like, man, you know, you want to go pro? And I'm like, man, I do. Like, let's do this, you know, thinking I'm going to make big money. It was like my first fight. I think I made like 2-2, 200 and 200. To fight.
You fought a tough dude who's in the UFC and just knocked out Mike Pyle.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you know, my first fight for pretty much like 2-2. It might have been 3-3, but it wasn't more than that. You know, and it was like ticket sales. And at that point, I was so new to Milwaukee. No one knew who I was. So it wasn't like I was selling any tickets. You know, it was pretty much a hometown fight for me because I had moved to Milwaukee versus a hometown kid who was from there, raised there. It was like, you know, a double champion amateur wise. I'm supposed to be this stud, you know, athlete, play college football and all this stuff. So, you know, I ended up beating him, and it was kind of like that was the mark of my career early. Was everybody knew they're like, whoever wins this fight, because they normally don't put prospects together, but they're like, you fight each other now, you kind of cancel each other out. So you got to step on somebody, and so you know, I stepped on him, and that was like the mark of the journey. But you know, like I said, we had to invite Dustin over to live with us. So Eric Koch was sleeping out on the couch. I don't even think, like, he was in the UFC. I don't even think he had a bed at the time, man. Like, you know, that was back before the UFC was really paying money, you know, and stuff like that. And I think he had just came over from the WEC. So Dustin was still fighting like King of the Cage. You know, he wasn't even in the UFC yet, but he was living in one room. I was living the other. Eric was living on the couch. You know, that was like his bedroom. So like we, you know, all three of us living in there just to pay rent, just to be able to afford everything. And from there, you know, I was just like, man, I want to fight, and I need to fight often. Like, I need to do this. So we ended up fighting like 4 or 5 times within like 6 months, you know, all pro fights, just rattling them off. And then we had to move. We had to get out of that place. And so Anthony owned a little like rental property on the south side of Milwaukee. I'm talking like nobody around us spoke English. Like, we're on the south side, which is like, you know, like taco trucks everywhere, like little Mexico kind of thing, you know. And, you know, our neighbors were cool, but the area was rough, you know, and like we had to do work on the house. But like, you know, Anthony was giving us a break on the rent. I think we were all only paying like $150, something like that a piece. So it wasn't much. I don't even think we were covering the mortgage, you know, but he just wanted to look out for us. And at that point, that's when I took that RFA fight on short notice. I fought Brandon Thatch on 3 days notice, and I made weight. You know, I lost like 23 pounds in 3 days to fight him in Colorado, and I ended up getting submitted in the first round. That was my first loss as a pro. But that was a pivotal time in my career. You know, Ed Soros was the owner of RFA, and you know, that next morning he seen me, you know, having breakfast, and he pulled me to the side and he talked to me, and he's just like, hey man, you know, I know you're not making a lot of money. You know, obviously he wrote my check, so he knew it. He's like, don't worry about the money now. Reinvest that self in yourself. Like, you're a business now. Like, use that money to go get better training, you know, get a strength and conditioning coach, do these things. And I did, and then, he's like, hey, you looked out for us, stepping up, saving our show in Denver because it was the main event.
He was the
He was a
from
hometown
Denver.
kid, and he was from Denver. And he's like, I'm going to look out for you. I want to bring a show to Milwaukee. I want to bring the RFA to Milwaukee. And I was like, okay, awesome. I appreciate it. I looked out for you guys. They're looking out for me. So they brought RFA to Milwaukee, and they let Sergio headline it. And Sergio was supposed to fight Jeff Curran, which was
I remember that.
yeah, which was like weird because obviously when I was training here, I was under, Curran in the affiliation. I had met him, and stuff like that. And it was just kind of weird. And then Jeff had to pull out because of the dog, his family dog had passed and stuff. So Sergio ended up getting a replacement. Lance Palmer fought on that card. Pedro Munoz, who's in the UFC, fought on that card. Like, that card was huge. And I ended up getting that 56-second knockout, that was on ESPN, and that was like my first real moment of notoriety,
Right.
And that went kind of viral, and from there they gave me the RFA title fight against Alan Jaban, and pretty much at that time we were getting kicked out of Anthony's rental property because he was selling it. It just wasn't
Money
worth
pit.
having it. Yeah, he was losing money in it. He's really just trying to help us out, but. From there I moved in with him, and I had only known him a couple years, and he let me move into his house with him and Sergio. Pascal Kraus moved in too, so it was like,
That's
four of us.
MMA royalty.
Yeah, you know what I mean? I lived with the Pettis brothers, and it was like Pascal Kraus, who was in the UFC, German fighter, we all lived together at Anthony's place, and we kind of, Anthony paid the big bills, obviously, and then, me and Serge split the utilities, and Pascal paid for the cable, we made it work. And it was awesome, living there, and then just getting to see how they trained, I had always knew gym stuff, but strength and conditioning and just all the little extra workouts and stuff that they did. I started piggybacking off of that, and just doing that too. And then I got that RFA title fight, and Anthony was fighting Ben Henderson. That's when he got the Ben Henderson title fight. And so we were both training for title fights at the same time, both 5-round fights. Obviously, his was for the UFC title, mine was for RFA. And he pretty much set me up to be chosen by the UFC. In an interview leading up to that fight, he kind of, they were asking all the guys on the panel, what's a couple guys at your gym that, we don't know their name, but we will.
Right.
And he said my name.
I think I remember that.
And he said a couple other people, and even Uriah Faber piggybacked off what he said and said my name because I was under Uriah's management, and I had been out to Team Alpha Male and trained. So they both kind of piggybacked that. And, Dana, listening to loads of guys, and matchmakers and stuff like that, they really do pay attention, And then when I went and beat Alan Jaban, who was the next big thing, I definitely don't think they thought I would win that fight. I think that, they were we'll bring it to Des Moines. You can sell some tickets, I did pretty good selling tickets when they went to Milwaukee. I'm like, I can do better if we go to my actual, home state, not my home city, but, I saw that place out, but I don't think they want it because he was Black House training at Ed Soros's gym.
He's a model.
He's a male model, freaking Reebok, Gillette, and all this, and he had just fought a dude who I was talking crap on, Chris Spang, who's a model too.
Yeah.
Chris Spang is now my friend. So he came to Milwaukee and trained with Tyron to help him get ready for the Wonder Boy fight. And we became friends, but I told him the story, I was ragging on him and Alan Jaban. I was like, oh, this is Zoolander, because it's two male models fighting each other. So Alan was he was all butthurt about the model comments and all this stuff. So he went crazy in interviews. He's going to take my head off. I'm having nightmares of him in my sleep and all this crazy talk. So I beat him up for 5 rounds. Yeah. Pretty much. And
he's no
easy. Look at him now. Look at him now. It's man, I think I'm the movie Good Luck Chuck, where he used to talk to girls and they get pregnant. It's fight me, lose to me, make it to the UFC and do good. Look, what I mean? Look at these guys. But yeah, and after that fight, I was kind of in limbo. The RFA said I was going to fight again right away, but they didn't have anything. I was just kind of sitting around, and I was actually home. I came home to do a seminar.
I was there.
Yeah, I was doing that seminar, and I get a phone call. Hey, what do you weigh? You want to fight? I'm like, Sure, what I want to fight. It's like,
This is when you fought at 70.
Yeah, and they're like, you want to fight in the UFC? I'm like, hell yeah, I want to fight in the UFC. And he's like, well, what do you weigh? And I'm like 196. And he's like, oh, okay. Can you make 70? And I was like, yeah, what day? He's like, 11 days. I'm like, oh, I'm like, yeah, I can make it. Yeah. So I hang up. And I'm like trying to hold it in, you know. And my other coach calls me right back, Coach Cush. And he goes, what do you weigh? And don't lie to me. And I was like, 206 pounds. He's like, what'd you tell Duke? I was like, 196. He said, get your fat ass on a treadmill right now. And I was like, okay. And he's like, you better get back here right away. And it was like, I had just came home. You know, it was like my second day home or something. So Michael Maker runs the shields, gets me a freaking plastic sauna suit. We finished the seminar. I jump on the treadmill and I'm running. I lost like 10 pounds, drove back to Milwaukee, and I'm telling my mom's like, you just got here. I'm like, I can't tell you why I have to leave, but I gotta go. And she's like, what's going on? I'm like freaking out. Drove back, you know, I made 170, 11 days, 36 pounds. It was death, you know, and I don't know how I fought for 3 rounds against, you know, a tough opponent. But I did, you know, and it was like a win-loss. Like I lost the fight. It was really close. I thought I won the fight. I know a lot of other people did. But then it's just like salty now because you look back and now he's popped for USADA 2 times now. He's been out for 2 years with suspension.
And I don't know if Eric Silva has been, but
he's terrible. I mean, USADA killed that guy. Even if he never pops, USADA he's like killed Vitor, his career. You know? he was definitely on something, whether it was something that was banned or something that's like close to being banned that USADA would like.
Because that was right before USADA when you fought him.
Yeah, and now
in Brazil too. Yeah,
and now he looks totally different, like completely different. You know, he's getting knocked out. He has no abs. He looks flat. There's no explosiveness. And it's not like he's old. You know, we're about the same age. You know what I mean? Like he was like this next phenom thing, and then all of a sudden you just fall off.
The air got out.
Yeah, it's like, you know. So that's kind of one thing too. I look back at my UFC run and I'm like, first of all, I fought like some freaking killers. Like a lot of these guys you see fight now, they fighting people on the tail end of their career, or they're giving them people off the Ultimate Fighter, which most of those guys don't even deserve to be close to the UFC, or they're fighting debut guys, or they're just making matchups to get guys wins. I definitely didn't have that, you know what I mean? Because you wouldn't have gave me the people you gave me, you know, like when you did, if you were.
I think your first fight was a good matchup. It was just
shorter notice. Yeah. I think with a full camp, I run him over, you know, like, and the thing is like, if you go back and watch that fight, he won off aggression. If you look at it, because he didn't actually hit me. Go back and look at the fight. If you watch that fight, he didn't hit me a lot. Like nothing really hit me clean, and I defended and blocked everything. And then when I hit him a lot. I outstruck him, but they gave it to him because he was throwing harder punches.
I know.
But it's weird when you see scores like that. It was kind of like today with Darren Till and Wonderboy. Wonderboy outstruck him. He even said in the numbers.
Yeah.
But when Darren Till threw, he threw harder, you know, so I don't know, and he was more aggressive. So like it's still a problem with judging, obviously, in MMA, but I think that's one of the things that they don't give counter striking and then like point fighters, you know, like if you don't knock someone out, or if you're not trying to knock them out, you know, necessarily with one punch, then they don't score it as highly. Another fight example would be Holly Holm versus Jermaine Durandamy.
Throwing 1-2s to the air.
Yeah,
every 10 seconds.
She was just throwing, and Jermaine was throwing one punch that was like trying to murder her.
Right.
And everybody's like, well, Holly Holm did more. I'm like, you know,
you're just shadow boxing.
She was shadow boxing. She wasn't actually landing anything. Like if she would have landed all the punches she threw, then they have an argument for her winning. So I can see where it goes both ways, but I definitely thought I won that fight.
I know you won in the eyebrow contest in that fight.
Man, everyone talks about it. That freaking barber, man. I never went to that guy really, you know. And our barber was like out of town, so it was like, man, I need a haircut. Anthony was like, yeah, go down to this spot. Like every spot that like at that point, it was all like Puerto Rican barbershops, you know, so they're like super clean. A lot of them
Yeah.
are like, you know, metrosexual, almost like how clean they get their eyebrows,
Right.
you know, nose wax, all this stuff. Like it ain't like a rugged man kind of place, you know. So I go in there and he's cutting my hair, and I'm like, all right, cool, you know, lining me up. I didn't even want like the thin strip beard, like I just
Right.
wanted mine. Like I used to call it the war beard, and it still looks crappy now, but it was crappier then. And I just used to shave my head, and they're like, no, don't shave your head, keep this, you know, try to get this look. I'm like, all right. Well, then they straight razor like your hairline to make sure it's super straight. And so he's like, yeah, lay back. I'm like, okay. He lays back, and he's like doing my hairline. And all of a sudden, I feel down here, and I'm like, what the hell is that? And then he looked at me, he goes, and he don't speak really good English. He goes, eyebrow? And I'm like, no eyebrow.
Too late.
He's like, too late. Like, I already did it. So, man, this dude freaking arched my eyebrow. I had girls asking me, like, hey, where'd you get your eyebrows done? I'm like, you being funny or what? And they're like, no, like, your eyebrows are really, really good. And I'm like, this actually was a barbershop, and the guy did it. I didn't want it, but... And now every freaking promotion that doesn't, like, get a newer picture, they use those, and they just won't ever go away. Just won't ever go.
And then you come out in your grungy beard.
Yeah, I'm just rough. You know, I don't even get haircuts before fights anymore, really. Like, I just don't care. Or I've shaved my head bald with the beard all rough. But in all those pictures, like promo pictures, I look like a freaking
young Filipino boy.
man. I know, right? They all thought I was like Dominican or something. Like, I swear, they like speaking Spanish to me and stuff. I'm like, yo, I speak English. I don't know Spanish. Like, I'm just black. I'm not Dominican. Like, you sure? I'm like, I'm sure.
That's funny.
So, man, the freaking eyebrows.
I had to give you some shit.
Yeah, man. I still get it every time. Like, my roommates and them, they'll bring it up. And, like, you know, with Snapchat now, you can create, like, stickers that you can just paste on the pictures. My friend JP's, like, or my roommate, he fights too. That's like his funny thing is like he looks for people's like embarrassing pictures and he makes some stickers. So like I put up like 2 baby pictures of me like posing in clothes that my mom dressed me in, and he like has those saved, and he's got the freaking picture with the eyebrows saved, and he'll throw it on snaps and stuff. It's
That's funny.
freaking eyebrows.
So, what do you got in the future? Not just in fighting, but other stuff. You still part owner of a gym, working at a taekwondo school?
That whole thing went south. So my business partners for that, freaking scumbags. They, you know, typical kind of, you know, just running the muck gym stuff where, you know, people do stuff shady.
Yeah.
You know, they want to make as much money as possible.
Yeah.
And
you don't make money at a gym, really.
Yeah, you know, and like the owner of it, he hides behind a mask and he's really good at it. You know, he's like one of those guys that like he seems really, really genuine and like he cares on the outside, but just like being around him and seeing the way he did things, like I can tell everything was just, it was fake and it was false. And I kind of knew like where this was going. And so I kind of tried to prep myself for it. Like I tried to put contingencies in play where like I made myself almost irreplaceable.
Yeah.
So like I would make, you know, above and beyond what the normal instructors were doing at the other schools he owned, I did. So at the end of the day, when they got rid of me, you know, cut me out of the business, didn't pay me, didn't give me my percentage of the business that I had owned. I think it was like 30 or 40 families left their school because I wasn't teaching anymore. So that school, they like lied to some guy, told him it was worth so much money and sold it to somebody else kind of thing. And now that school's like doing terrible, you know, and I feel bad because it was like I grew to enjoy all the students and families and people that I had there as like real genuine relationships when you're working with kids, you know. But now, right after that, Anthony Pettis owns a gym up there called Pettis Martial Arts, and I just took over pretty much the entire program. I'm the one-stop shop on the MMA side. I'm the kickboxing coach. And I'm the jiu-jitsu coach as well. You know, and I think that's something that Duke helped out a lot with because he, you know, he's like, you know, regular gyms, like you said, you're not gonna make a lot. You're not gonna make a lot of money. You know, you gotta decide: is this what you want to do? Is it your passion? Do you not mind not having, you know, the nicest things in the world, or do you want to just do it as like a part-time hobby on the side? But you know, his thing is like all this training is like college, you know, and if you don't get your black belt in these martial arts, you're kind of quitting early kind of thing, you know. And it's like, you know, get your master's degree, get your black belt so you can teach. You know, you will always have that skill set. At the end of the day, you know, you can find work somewhere, you know. So, you know, took that serious. So I got my black belt. I'm a first degree black belt in his kickboxing system, which is not like, you know, jiu-jitsu as far as like a nationally recognized belt. But when you say I'm a Duke Rufus black belt, that carries weight because of who he is and what he's done.
Right. They don't give those away.
Yeah, he don't give those away. And it's like, you know, people see me fight now. They understand, like, you know, what it is. So I teach that. So I teach the kids and the adults. And we have different belt rankings for both. And then, you know, I kind of dove after that Brandon Thatch submission loss. I kind of dove into jiu-jitsu at a level that like I had never had before. You know, we're a bigger academy, so we have so many classes every day. You know, like I can, if you don't have a job, you can literally take 6 jiu-jitsu classes in a day. You know, there's like 6 of them offered a day, pretty much. 1 in the morning and like 4 or 5 at night. So, you know, whether it's gi, no gi, pro practices, you know, I can do that many. And so after that submission loss, I need to get better at this, you know. So I started grappling all the time. I started doing all these tournaments all the time. Like I wanted to get better in that specific aspect, you know. And so I put my work in there. Obviously, I'm not a black belt yet, but that's my goal, you know, is to be a black belt in both. But you know, just looking at it, that's what I want to do. I think I want to teach, you know. And right now, Anthony's giving me a platform to teach. At the end of the day, I think long-term goal, I want to open a school, you know, and I don't know if I want to open it here or not, like back home in Iowa, or if I want to open it somewhere else. But as a part of the martial arts school, I want to do like kind of a nonprofit as well. You know, I believe that like a lot of the problem with society today is the role models that kids have to look up to. Obviously, I'm not perfect. I'm still a kid. You know, I'm probably gonna have some more mistakes I make in my life, but I feel like they need better role models, and I feel like martial arts got watered down for a while, and so it lost out on that respect aspect, especially like taekwondo schools and stuff like that. A lot of them just want money, quick, fast money, get you in, get you out kind of thing, and you know, you can buy a belt and stuff like that. And I feel like that kind of messed up the martial arts role in you know, helping the kids. But the Cave, have you seen that guy?
No.
The Cave, it's the Cave, and I think it's in
it's in
Michigan. Yeah, it's a martial arts school. It's a black guy who owns it. And is he the guy that posts videos of like him talking to his students? Yeah, and he does like the strength stuff, and it's like all about, I think it's a pretty much male dominated school thing.
Yeah,
like,
and he's like, the kid was trying to break the board. And
and he was just telling him like, you know, don't worry, like you can cry, that kind of thing. And I feel like
it's kind of like a pastor in martial arts.
Yeah,
like,
pretty much.
Life coach, martial arts.
And
like,
I think that's really dope. And I feel like that's what martial arts instructors are supposed to be. Whether you want to be religious or not, that's up to you. But as far as like the values and the core things that he brings to it, I feel like, you know, like an offshoot of that has, you know, multiple martial arts in the school, but like the focus is on the kids and not necessarily the martial art. Like through time, obviously they'll get better, but it's not about a race to a black belt. It's like a race to, you know, help raise the kids the right way. And I feel like that's what we're missing. And if you get to the kids as they get older, it'll make the change. But right now I feel like we're focusing on the wrong thing. Like a 28-year-old kid most likely is not going to change his ways. So trying to focus on that, they're not lost causes, but you know, it's going to be hard. So I feel like you got to go and attack the kids and help that. So that'll be my ultimate goal at the end of this.
Well, I think you can, if you can make it to the UFC in 3 or 4 years, I think you can do that. I don't know why you wouldn't be able to.
Yeah, I think that's the plan. I think that's kind of like what's been laid out for me. I don't think I would have ever thought that would be what I would do, but life, you know, then I'm just kind of living it, letting it guide me, just kind of going where it takes me. And I feel like that's
that'd be cool if you could, you know, do a nonprofit and partner with even schools and just have like the buses drop them off every day after school. And from 3 to 6, you got 3 classes going on, and then give them a snack, send them home, you know.
I think that's kind of the thing, you know. Working at Anthony's school, they do a really, really good job with the kids. Like the kids on the Taekwondo school are phenomenal kids, you know, and they're awesome. And I feel like on the MMA side, we're starting to build that culture, you know. And I was teaching the jiu-jitsu for a while, and then I went strictly kickboxing. So I was only their kickboxing coach for a while with the kids. And so now I'm going back to being the kickboxing and jiu-jitsu coach for them. So I feel like I'll be able to build a stronger rapport with them because I'll have them, you know, pretty much 4 or 5 days a week. And just kind of build a mantra, you know, not something that you got to chant or do anything like that, but to just build, you know, more respectful and, you know, exactly a second family where, you know, I can be there if there's not like a male figure, you know, they can look at me and be like, hey, you know, and, you know, a lot of the families in them, they support me, you know, through fighting. Like I had a little kid, you know, come up to me, hey, sorry about the fight, but you looked awesome, you know, and like, you know, it helps, and I feel like that this can be my avenue, my platform to do something better.
Well, I think that's a good idea. That'd be cool, you know, once you get it up and stuff, and, you know, you could even start scholarships and stuff about, like, do you want to sponsor a kid in the program? You know, it's $30 a month, and they get to come here and, you know, participate and everything. So you could do it that way too. Or
I think that's smart. And I think it's a lot of people that'll help, you know, once you get it going, and like, you know, obviously, I think some nonprofits and stuff like that, obviously there's like good and bad and everything. And some people, you know, there's always people looking to take advantage of something. But I feel like, you know, with it being a nonprofit, you know, or even having like certain times, you know, where like the nonprofit has specific classes where, you know, that could really, really help, you know, build something.
Yeah. The best thing I love about martial arts, and, you know, I don't train that much anymore at all, really. But it's just that it's the only thing that humbles you the first 5 minutes you're there. Yeah. And everyone needs that reminder at least once in their life. If you go in a jiu-jitsu class and you roll with someone the first time and you think you can squat this much or bench this much, and you get worked over by Bill, who's a 5'8" professor. Yeah, shout out to Bill.
Shout out to Bill.
I always shout out to him.
Will. Yeah, it's crazy,
and you
man.
just get rolled over by some.
That's one of the beauties about jiu-jitsu too. You know, like a lot of things can be taken out of play. A lot of physical and, you know, advantages, whatever it may be, your size, your strength, your age.
Right.
Man, it doesn't matter if someone has skill and they know the technique. You can get manhandled, you know, and like even, you know, girls, women. I've rolled with some chicks that like.
Do Jen Case? Did you ever roll with Jen?
Nuh-uh.
She was a purple belt back then, and she used to train at the Rock. And
I think I know her. I know her sister.
Okay.
So like I came after her though.
I think she's a black belt now, but she would just roll.
Yeah, I've rolled with some. I rolled with some Brazilian girls that are like, you know, a little bit bigger, but they're black belts.
Right.
Man, like, you know what I mean? Like, you're fighting for your life. You know what I mean? It's like, she's going to strangle me.
Right.
You know, and it's like, it's happened. You know what I mean? It's like, and it is. It's a very humbling thing, but that's what I love about jiu-jitsu, because it is. And you will always forever run into someone who will humble you.
Right.
There's always going to be someone better. If you stay in your gym, you might be the best in your gym for a while, but you're going to get a visitor every now and then. You're going to go to a tournament. If you do a tournament, you're going to find out that it ain't always going to go your way, but that's what it's supposed to do. I feel like that's what you need, you know what I mean? Because other than that, you know, you start to feed your ego and stuff like that, and then you go down the wrong path.
Definitely changes the way you think about just any problems in life too, you know, because you're always, in martial arts, you're always solving problems, but in jiu-jitsu especially, you're trying to, I don't know how to explain it.
It's like in a Rubik's Cube, but it moves and can fight back. But it translates to life, you know. It just, like, the way you think about, you know, tackling a different problem in another area of your life, jiu-jitsu is applicable to it, I think, too. So yeah, and I mean, I've made a big jump in jiu-jitsu as far as like the amount of training I do and the focus that I put on jiu-jitsu, like training the gi and no gi. I think a lot of MMA athletes that, you know, didn't come from a jiu-jitsu background, I think they don't really enjoy the gi, and that's the reason why you see a lot of them that are, you know, John Jones, I think, just got his blue belt,
right?
You know, which I mean, he didn't even know how to tie the thing. So I really wonder how much he's trained.
It's like
in
Conor
the gi.
McGregor.
And I will give Conor a little bit of credit as far as the belt tie was freaking terrible, but he's under John Kavanaugh, which is Kavanaugh's like one of the pioneers of jiu-jitsu over there, and
he spends time with Dylan.
Yeah, Dylan, and he rolls with Gunner and stuff like that. So I'll give him a little bit of credit, but even think about it, Demetrius Johnson is technically a white belt just because he doesn't train in the gi, and and there's you can look at it, people are like, oh well, you don't have to put the gi on to get a rank. I think that's bullshit, because the original martial arts was taught in a gi. It was a gi based martial art. But then you get 10th Planet, no knock against them for the most part, because a lot of their guys are really, really good. Right. But they're all no gi, and then you see them get belted with an actual belt. So, well, you don't train in a gi, which is with a belt. That requires a belt. So you still claim to be black belts and stuff like that, and I understand it. It's a totally different thing. And if you want to do no gi ranks, then do a no gi rank. But why do you get the belt kind of thing? But there's guys that are good, but I mean, just think about it. If Demetrius Johnson put in much time as he did in MMA in the gi, I think he could be a world champion in the gi as well. I think he'll beat a lot of world class jiu-jitsu guys in the gi anyway, but
problem is
it'll be rough.
Problem is there's no money in the gi.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the biggest problem.
ACB is actually starting a jiu-jitsu league where they pay grapplers, and it's actually pretty good pay. They just had their first event in California, and they had Buchecha, Leandro Lowe, they had all the big Cyborg, Santos. So
hopefully they keep it up, because I feel like you hear about these every 2 or 3 years, and then after
Morris
1 or 2 shows,
it's hard for backing, honestly, but they just got to do it right. They got to go into smaller venues. They got to go to cities where jiu-jitsu is big, and where the big name guys are, where they have support. Yeah. You can't you're not going to be able to do it like an MMA show and just go to a random city, get a big arena, spend a bunch of money, and think you're going to do anything. You got to keep it small so you can pay the athletes and stuff like that. But I think it has a chance to grow. Obviously EBI is bigger and it's no-gi and stuff like that, but tradition, I'm into the tradition of the martial art, now being under Daniel Vanderlei, who's he's under Carlson Gracie, which he got his black belt from Gutenberg Mello, which is one of Carlson's first students kind of thing, and then he moved and lived in Chicago with Carlson Senior and Junior, so we go to headquarters, which is an hour away from Milwaukee, and I'm training with one step down from the originator, the first Brazilian to teach jiu-jitsu to non-Brazilian people. You know what I mean? So it's I'm very, very close to the beginning lineage of jiu-jitsu kind of thing. So it's really awesome to learn that and know that. And now I got to treat it with a certain level of respect, though, because now if I pass it on, I'm reflecting on those guys, and so that's a major weight, you know what I mean? So that's one thing that I take very seriously, and being so close to getting my black belt, it's all right, I you know what I mean, I need to know all this stuff. I need to make sure that I'm representing, and competition wise, and just how I'm teaching, it's Carlson Gracie's style is something people talk about, but it's a universal style. You don't have to know the person, you don't have to speak the language,
you
but
just know
you see that guy pass, you're like, that's a Carlson Gracie guy. You know what I mean? It's nice, and it's cool. It's kind of a cool thing, but it's most regular people don't really care. But if you're into jiu-jitsu and into that world, it's a big deal kind of thing.
Right on. Well, you got anything else you want us to talk about? Anything? I know we talked about a lot, but
I don't know. I think we hit a lot of areas.
I'm excited for your future, and looking to fight soon. Probably,
I'm hoping to fight soon. I just cut my own stitches out. I didn't really need stitches. It was the last elbow in the fight, and it just grazed me. But they were like, we don't want to take any chances. Let's just close it up so it heals right. So I got the stitches in. So I haven't been able to train since the fight. So it's only been about a week and a half or so. So looking to fight soon. I don't know if it'll be local or something like that. As far as locally, I mean Milwaukee area or somewhere around there.
Midsummer, late summer.
Man, as soon as possible.
Okay.
Yeah, I got to get back training. I don't want to get too big. That's like one of my issues is like in between fights, if I don't fight again right away, I get fat. You know what I mean? So
have you thought about going back to 70?
Man, I've thought about it, but I just don't think I could do it.
Right.
Like I would literally have to diet, not even like nonstop, and like it would still be hard. Like I used to be. So when I was fatter, I could make it because I had a high amount of body fat.
Right.
So I typically, right now I walk around normally around 210 to 215. I try to stay under 215, which is like a task. Like I have to try to do that because my body naturally wants to be bigger. I'm just naturally like I feel like I'm supposed to be a heavier guy because I'm still eating decently clean. I train nonstop 2-3 times a day. I teach. I'm active. Like I'm not sitting around
at a desk,
eating fast food, drinking beers every day. Like I'm not doing that. Like I live a very actively clean lifestyle, and it's still hard for me to keep my weight below. But when I would be 215 before, I used to be sitting at like 26% body fat.
Right.
Now when I'm sitting at 210 or 215, I'm sitting at 16% body fat. So it's like, all right, I got a little bit in the stomach, a little bit in the legs. But then when I drop to 200, I'm down around 11% body fat.
Yeah.
Now it's like, you want me to lose 30 more pounds to make a weight class, you know? And the last couple times I made it, I just couldn't fight. You know what I mean? Like I was lethargic. Like I beat some dudes just because I was technically better than them. But if I would have ran into someone who had a little bit more skill or maybe a little bit more cardio, I probably would have lost to him just because I didn't have it.
More of a fight to make the weight.
Yeah, that was like the biggest thing, man. And even after I fought Robert Whitaker in the UFC, he looked at me and told me, he's like, this is my last fight at 70. And he went up to 85 right away. And I was bigger than him. Like I walk around bigger than him. Still to this day, I'm bigger than him. Like he's thick, he's got that Maui kind of body, those Aboriginal people are thicker, like Mark Hunt, big heavy bones and stuff. It's like, we're built differently, but I'm bigger than him. And like even my teammate roommate Gerald Mershart, he's fighting at 70. He just got too lean. He's just too muscular. He's got older. Just naturally grew and kind of filled out his body. Now he can't make it either. And I was walking around 25 pounds heavier than him and making 170, and he couldn't even make 170. So the last time I tried to make it, I made 175, and I was like, we were taking boiling hot water from the stove, like boiling it on the stove. And pouring it in to try and get the water temperature up where it'd be hot enough for me to start sweating, and it just wouldn't happen. So I ended up having to like ask my opponent to take a catch weight. He agreed. He wanted more money, kind of thing. And it was like a couple days before the fight, so it was like he knew whatever. We made it at 175, and I still like had no pop. Every time I hit him, it felt like I was just swinging pillows. Like every time I hit him, like normally I was like, man, I hit you with that shot, I can put you down. He just shook it all off. I'm like, man, I can't fight there anymore. I really wish I could because I feel like my body is perfect for 170.
Yeah.
But 185, freaking huge. So, like, I was supposed to fight a guy who's 6'6". You know what I mean? But they canceled the event. Like, my last fights was supposed to be the guy who's 6'6". The guy before that was 6'4". Guy before that was 6'3". The guy before that was 6'4". Like, all these big dudes. Like 85ers are huge. Most 85ers I feel like are bigger than 205ers. So you look at the 205ers, like he need to go up. they need to go up. You know what I'm saying? Like I wish they would create and do that different weight class thing because I think a lot of people would go to 195 and 185 and that kind of thing. I think that would help out a lot. But I was definitely thinking about it. Like trying to see if I changed certain things, did more running based workouts and stuff, if I could lose the weight to fight at 70. But man, even making 185 is hard. I think maybe the damage I did to my body making 170 might have ruined me.
Took a lot of
short notice fights. I mean, if you look at my career, the bulk of my things are short notice fights, and even
across these.
Yeah, and it's like I don't use excuses for losses or anything like that, but you go back and look before these. I mean, this last fight was three weeks notice, but you look at my losses. They were all
right.
Robert Whitaker was a full camp.
That was.
And Rafael Dos Anjos was probably a full camp. Other than that, the Eric Silva fight was pretty much short notice, coming off a meniscus tear, helping coach the Ultimate Fighter. Obviously George Sullivan was short notice. Brandon Thatch was short notice. Yeah, maybe it bit me in the ass to be so confident, that I could, beat these guys because I think I can beat everybody. But that's how you got to feel in the sport.
Right.
And sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. But yeah, I think 185 would be my home. I was talking to my roommate. We're gonna look into doing some more Olympic lifting. Just getting stronger,
but bigger.
Not bigger. I don't need to be bigger because if I get bigger, I'm gonna have a hard time making 185, and I definitely can't fight at a high level at 205. I just can't. They're too big.
Right.
Even though I'm the same size as I'm bigger than Daniel Cormier.
Right.
I'm bigger than him. He's like 5'10".
He's also a keg.
That's what I'm saying. You know what I mean? I'm 6'1". I think when he was fighting last time, when he was doing the commentary gig for Gerald, my teammate, his fight, I think he said he was like 225, and at that point I was coming off an injury. I was like 235 or something like that. So I was like bigger than him. You know what I mean? But I'm not as strong as him. I'm not used to carrying around that kind of weight. Yeah. I just can't fight at that weight class. So I think 85 is for me, but I need to do some things now.
Right.
To be able to be successful at this weight class because I can't just show up. I gotta make sure my grappling is better to be able to get these dudes off me or to, hold them down. Then I just gotta make sure that I'm physically,
same level.
Same level.
Right.
I don't need to be the strongest guy because that's not my game. I don't play like a strongman game, but I definitely can't be getting manhandled. You know, and I feel like this Russian guy I just fought. We don't speak the same language, but. After the fight, he was just like, man, you were good, you were fast, and he just kind of pointed at his arms like, I'm strong, and I'm like, yeah, I know, you were strong as hell, but I feel like if I can even out that battle a little bit, I feel like technically I can beat a lot of these guys, even though they might be bigger.
No doubt.
Bam.
All right, well, that's all. I appreciate it. I think we went a little longer than we thought, but we talked. It was good talk. I haven't talked to you in a while. It's good to catch up, and next time you're back in town, we'll have to do it again, and hopefully it's after a win, and hopefully it's after you start your school at some point.
That's what I'm hoping. It's got to be after a win. We got to get some wins here.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, thank you.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.